These days, I know a lot more of us are playing our D&D games online, and among many considerations for those of us moving from mainly physical tabletop gaming to online tabletop gaming, we need to consider where we are going to get our maps. Now, it doesn't take long at all to find high quality maps online, but in this video I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite sources for digital RPG maps, or how I sometimes make them as well. Hi everyone, my name is Nate and you are watching WASD20, a channel about tabletop RPGs and fantasy maps. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button below for more videos like this. So about 2 weeks ago, I put out a video on my virtual tabletop of choice these days, which is Owlbear Rodeo, and that video is doing very well and there are lots and lots of comments, and the second most popular comment was along the lines of, okay, great, this looks like a cool tool, but where do you get the maps? Because you don't make maps in Owlbear Rodeo. By the way, by far the most popular comment was, why would I ever use this over Roll20? Isn't this basically like a worse version of Roll20? And to that I say, absolutely not, and I'm working on a video along those lines, and that'll probably be out next week, so when it is, I will put a link right up there. You can check that out. But back to the topic of this video, where do I get my maps? So one of the first options is for you to draw your own maps, and I have done a lot of that. A lot of you know that I'm kind of a map guy and I like to draw maps, but the reality is, while I have drawn some maps, and I'll put some up on the screen here that I've drawn either for my patrons or for my website or for a video and just kind of given away for free online, encounter and dungeon maps are not really my specialty, and I'm usually looking for something quick, something easy. I don't want to spend 2 or 3 hours drawing my own. Now, when I do want to make a map, if there's something I can't find online, lately I have been using Dungeon Draft, and this is, I think, a $20 application. You can download it on your computer. It is not web-based, and you buy it once. It's not a subscription service, so it's all good in those ways. But I will say I kind of actually prefer like a web-based thing because I lose things, and I actually made some maps in Dungeon Draft this past fall, and I reformatted my computer, and I'm not sure where they are. I'm pretty sure I backed them up, and they're on a drive somewhere. So maybe I'll find those someday, but anyway, Dungeon Draft is a cool program. I really like it because it doesn't have like a digital map feel. The maps feel a little bit more like hand-drawn and almost painterly in a way. So I really like that about it. And anyway, maybe I'll do a full review at some point, but it is a piece of software I recommend. And also there are tons and tons of free asset packs out there, or inexpensive asset packs that people are making, so that if you're not really happy with the options, which there's a fair amount of options built in, you can easily import more. It's a little bit time consuming, but in the end, you can get some really great looking maps, and there's a lot of resources out there for Dungeon Draft, so check it out. Another great source of maps would be from actual RPG books that you're buying digital versions of, like on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, or even on DriveThruRPG, just getting a PDF. Personally, I use the maps from D&D Beyond, since I own a lot of the books on D&D Beyond. Right now I'm running Icewind Dale, and I'll grab the maps from the module and just take screen grabs and import them into Owlbear Rodeo or whatever, and that works really well. However, even though I am running a module, there's lots of times where I want maps that aren't included in the book. Maybe there's a wilderness encounter, a random encounter that I want a map for, or when I ran the Lake Monster quest in session 1. By the way, I'll put a link to the campaign up at the top there if you want to check it out. But when I ran that one, I made a map for it in Dungeon Draft because I couldn't find a good map with the lake and some ice flows and things like that. And when I say I couldn't find one, what do I mean? Where do I try to find maps? Well, the main thing I do is just go to Google image search. Honestly, that's one of the main first places I go. And from there, I usually find links to various creators' websites, or sometimes to Reddit or Pinterest or something like that. Be a little bit careful with what you do with these maps, because understand a lot of artists have put hard work into them. And if you're sharing them around with your friends or posting them on Reddit or other places, please let us know who the artist is. It's really important to give attribution so that artists get credit and more people can find their work and support them. Now, I do want to recognize that I just made a video about finding maps in which one of my pieces of advice was Google it, and that's not super useful. So when you are Googling, let me give you some useful advice. If you're looking, for example, for a refinery map, notice nothing really comes up. So you might understand that you need to add something else like refinery map D&D. And we get much better results that way. Or refinery map RPG, also pretty good results. Or ravine map, not getting a whole lot that's useful here, a couple, but let's try Ravine Encounter map and see what we come up with. Much better. A lot of great maps here. So Encounter, RPG, D&D, including those terms along with your search will be really helpful. One place that I often browse for maps, and I can also search there, would be the D&D Maps subreddit, r D&D Maps. Go check it out. There are tons and tons of great maps there. There's also some kind of, crappier ones. It's a little bit hit or miss sometimes, but overall, it's a huge library of maps, and you can use the little tags on the right-hand sidebar and click on Encounter or Dungeon or whatever you're looking for to get a little bit more specific. And of course, you can use the search bar, and you can even type in the names of specific modules. So if you're running Curse of Strahd or Storm King's Thunder or Icewind Dale, you can type those in, and people have actually made maps for those campaigns. A lot of the maps you find there are from various creators who have a Patreon, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but sometimes it's good to support those people too, so keep that in mind. A lot of times they'll give out a few free maps, and you can get a lot more if you support them on Patreon. Again, as specific as possible you can be in your searches. That's better if you're looking for a forest temple or something like that. Typing in those specific terms can really help produce results. And honestly, sometimes I just go through and I'll just download a bunch of maps. If I've got space on my hard drive, I just kind of collect maps in case I come across scenarios where I need some of them. Now, speaking of Patreon creators, let's talk about a few of my favorites. I feel like these creators are kind of a dime a dozen right now, and there are some really good ones that I'm not going to mention just because there's so many. There's tons that I haven't heard of. So definitely put some of your favorites down in the comments as well. But here are a few that I have really noticed as standouts that do really good work. The first one is 2 Minute Tabletop. 2 Minute Tabletop has a Patreon, but he also has his own website, and you can go there and you can download tons and tons of free, great looking RPG maps. Almost all of his maps are encounter maps, and you can get them in gridded or non-gridded versions. A lot of them are pay what you want, and usually when I go and download something from him, I'll give him $1 or $2 because it's nice to support the creator. Yes, you could absolutely just pay nothing, but remember the creators. These people need to make a living. So 2 Minute Tabletop, top notch, been around for several years now, and I've always loved his stuff. Another great encounter map artist would be Dyson Logos. Now, almost all his maps are black and white, but they've got this very classic, old school RPG feel, and I just love them. So go check out Dyson Logos as well. I'm putting links to all these down in the video description, by the way. Thirdly, definitely check out Kaora. Kaora does a lot more than just encounter maps. He also does tokens and world and region maps and things like that. But Kaora used to be Blue Sword Games, now Kaora. Great, high quality, vibrant color maps. Really love the style. Lots of paid stuff, but also lots of free stuff. And of course, he does have a Patreon. As I've looked around in Google Image Search and RD&D Maps, I have found some others that I wanted to shout out to. Two that come to mind are, first of all, Neutral Party, and the other one is Party of Two. Really high quality color RPG maps. So go check those out as well. So usually with those sources for my maps, I have no shortage of high quality battle maps. And again, it's good to keep like a folder or a location somewhere where you just have a bunch of random ones that you think would be useful in lots of situations. Really just versatile maps. Sometimes just having a map of a certain kind of terrain or like a road going through a certain sort of terrain. Those are really valuable when you come across those encounters that maybe you didn't expect or didn't plan for. And that's one of the things I love about Owlbear Rodeo, by the way, is it's just so quick to just throw any old map in there really quick and get your players in as well. So those are my sources for high quality digital RPG maps, but I definitely want to hear from you as well, whether it's an artist or whether it's a tool you use for making your own maps. Put those down in the comments below. Before we go, I do want to give a huge thank you to the WASD20 patrons. Patrons are people who support the channel on a monthly basis. I could not do what I do without them. They're the lifeblood of the channel. And they also get some pretty cool rewards, things like weekly live map drawing streams with me and campaign diaries for my ongoing Icewind Dale campaign. So go check it all out over at patreon.com/WASD20. Thank you all for watching as well. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you give it a thumbs up and take care. You'll see me again very soon.